Avs trade rumors are escalating and things are getting wild as the Colorado Avalanche are trying to solidify the best possible roster and the deepest roster for the upcoming NHL season in hopes to continue to make the deepest possible playoff run that they can and continue to thrive as a franchise in the National Hockey League. And around all of these rumors and all of these different things that are being discussed around the league and specifically around the Colorado Avalanche, who they could potentially trade for, there's one specific speculation that we are going to dive in today right here on Avalanche Digest. But before we do so, I want to welcome you into Avalanche Digest here on YouTube and remind you to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel here on YouTube. If you're tuning into these videos, it probably means that you love hockey and it probably means that you love the Colorado Avalanche. And if you're not subscribed, let's share that love and give us your support. Make sure you're subscribed so that you can not miss a single news update, rumor, opinion, and just consistent coverage that we're offering around the Colorado Avalanche right here on Avs Digest. Crazy stat here, 92% of our watchers here on Avalanche Digest not subscribed to the channel in comparison to a slim 8% of you that are subscribed to the channel and continuing to tune in to our videos. To that 8%, thank you so much for your support. We appreciate all of the viewership that we're getting here on the channel. To the other 92% of you, please exit out of that video, hit that subscribe button. If you're a Colorado Avalanche fan, this is the best possible place for you to get your Colorado Avalanche daily news, updates, opinions, rumors, anything regarding the team that you can possibly think of. We're covering it right here on Avalanche Digest. And with that said, without further ado, let's dive into this specific trade speculation rumor that I think could be an interesting move for Chris MacFarland and the Avs to make. And that is a one-way deal, one for one that is. Marty Necas, the 27-year-old with 83 points, who's a UFA in the 2026 season, who was acquired in the Carolina Hurricanes trade in exchange for Mikko Rantanen, along with Jack Drury and a handful of draft picks from Carolina, in a one-way deal to the Buffalo Sabres for JJ Peterka, the 23-year-old German who is still getting his feet, getting his grounds in this league, expected to be a really strong player, who had 68 points in this most previous season, and he is currently a restricted free agent. Now, a lot of different implications and a lot of different talking points go into the potential of this one-for-one deal between Colorado and Buffalo. I'm sure a lot of everyone watching's first knee jerk is, why would we get rid of the player that we received for our 10th overall franchise Stanley Cup champion player in Mikko Rantanen, who was traded to Carolina and then later traded to the Dallas Stars? Obviously, definitely a valid thing to think in terms of the fact that Marty Necas was a really strong pickup as far as what we could get for value for Mikko Rantanen. But we have to think long-term here, and Marty Necas is an expensive player, and he may not want to even stay put in Colorado. There's been a lot of speculation whether or not he wants to even be with this team playing for the Colorado Avalanche. And you look at the other side, you have JJ Peterka, a really young, strong player who's been thriving on a struggling dumpster fire of a Buffalo Sabres team. The potential of him trying to get on a roster that has the potential to make a playoff spot every year and perform and try to get to a Stanley Cup with the talent that he has, and as he continues to develop into much better of a player, putting him on a very well-oiled machine that is the Colorado Avalanche with Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, and the other strong points that our team has. He may fit in perfectly, make our team even deeper and even stronger, and really contribute to a deep playoff run in the future here for the Colorado Avalanche. So let's take a look at the stats of each of these players and kind of dive a little bit into what they offered on the ice for each team last season. And that will segue into some of the pluses and minuses and just the overall conversation around the potential for this one-for-one deal with Colorado and Buffalo. So we take a look first at Marty Necas. He played in 79 games throughout the entire season. Reminder that that is almost halfway split between Colorado and Carolina. He had a career year, 27 goals, 56 apples, totaling for 83 points, 194 shots, 83 giveaways, 23 takeaways on the ice, and a +5 at the end of the season in Marty Necas. He had a really strong season, and he continues to be a top player in the league, a very recognizable player as well. That is. He was acquired in January along with Jack Drury in exchange for Mikko Rantanen. Colorado received a handful of draft picks as well in the massive blockbuster trade that sent Mikko Rantanen to Carolina, where he would then land in Dallas. Something notable about Marty Necas was his struggles in the playoffs this year. He was very quiet, did not have a lot of action, didn't have a lot of scoring in the playoffs in that first round Game 7 series against the Dallas Stars. But it's safe to say that he's a strong player no matter what. And, he has a lot to offer on both sides of kind of the, of the trade here. If he sticks around in Colorado, he could be a really strong player. He could really contribute to our depth and continue to play on that first or second line alongside MacKinnon and some of those other really strong players. But if he gets sent to Buffalo, things could, benefit in the Sabres realm as well. He would add a lot of, veteran skill to that team as well, a team that is struggling and cannot get out of the slump that they're in over the most recent kind of time frame. Switch things over to JJ Peterka. He played 77 games. He had 27 goals and 41 assists this season for 68 points. 173 shots, 87 giveaways, 22 takeaways. He was a -1 on the season, but I don't think that reflects his stats, especially considering he was playing on a bottom of the league, struggling Buffalo Sabres team. 6 foot, really strong, tall player. He's 23 years old, so he's still young. He played his first season in 2022, and he's really continuing to develop into a really strong player. And something that's known about JJ Peterka is that he wants kind of to get out of the Sabres organization, not necessarily because he doesn't want to play for the Sabres, but more just he's hungry to play playoff hockey, and he's hungry to be involved in an organization that's thriving, and the Buffalo Sabres are not doing that. And so that also offers an interesting viewpoint of why this trade could work really well on both sides for the Colorado Avalanche and the Buffalo Sabres. Now let's dive a little bit more into kind of the pluses and the minuses and just the overall conversation around this trade. Most of this information courtesy of R.F. Dean from Colorado Hockey Now, a member of the PWHA. We are going to just kind of dive into some of these thoughts and viewpoints and why this trade could potentially work really well all around. So obviously we know that Marty Necas, 26 years old, he's on the last year of a contract, an expensive contract that is, that's paying him $6.5 million AAV. We just talked about his stats during this last season, and he was the key piece returning to the Avs in the blockbuster Mikko Rantanen trade. He was 100% the most notable exchange in which we gave Mikko Rantanen to the Carolina Hurricanes. And then we take a look at JJ Peterka, who's 3 years younger. He's also coming off of a very strong season, 28 goals, 50 points in the 2023-24 season. This season, he did even stronger. He's an RFA following the expiration of his entry-level deal, and rumors are starting to circulate that he wants out of Buffalo. And the Sabres aren't listening to any of these offers for the German winger. But if the Sabres were to potentially get an offer of a strong 26-year-old powerhouse player in Marty Necas, this could spark the interest of the front office of the Buffalo Sabres to potentially move on from Peterka and switch things up in their roster for a little bit. Because although Peterka is a really strong player, it's safe to say that the Sabres need some sort of a shakeup as far as their roster goes and what they're doing in their front office over in Buffalo. From an Avalanche front office perspective, if MacFarland and Sakic traded Mikko Rantanen to spread money more throughout the roster and try to get a deeper roster, you can't re-sign a player like Marty Necas who's going to want something like the 7 to 9, maybe even 10 million, and just have a slightly cheaper top-heavy line. Rantanen was primarily traded because of how expensive he was going to be. And the the front office essentially talked about how they aren't willing to pay MacKinnon, Makar, and Rantanen all that much money. MacKinnon already has his AAV set around the 11 to 12 million range. He is a top 3 player in the league, no question. There was no doubt that they were going to pay him. And then you have Makar, who was drafted and then has now evolved into literally one of the best defensemen in the league, period. He just won his second Norris Trophy. They have to pay him as well. They have to keep him on the roster. And so trading Mikko Rantanen, if you're just going to have to end up paying Marty Necas a lot of money, it doesn't really add up. It doesn't really work. So it's truly about spreading the wealth, as R.F. Dean says in this article here. This deal gives you a younger forward in JJ Peterka, someone that might be a better fit, someone that's hungrier to be on a playoff roster. But then you also get him at a point in his career where he's really excited about a longer extension because he gets to play with some of these franchise players and really thrive with the Colorado Avalanche. And this is kind of another one of those things where it's a touchy area and a touchy subject for Chris MacFarland. He needs to really figure out how he's going to work all of this roster aspect around MacKinnon and Makar, especially while they're in their prime years. They obviously just won a cup in 2022, and as of late, people are saying that over the last 10 years, that is the best Stanley Cup team that the league has seen. And so the Avs are trying to crawl their way back to that sort of a position where they're in a really good position for a Stanley Cup championship again. And if Peterka can find his way to the Colorado Avalanche roster, a loaded roster that is, with now Brock Nelson having signed, Charlie Coyle looking to potentially make a deal, and Landy, who is back off the LTIR, this could really take the Colorado Avalanche to new heights. And it could really help just the overall aspects of Colorado and what they're trying to do with their roster. So an interesting potential trade here, Marty Necas for JJ Peterka. I think Marty Necas is a great player. I think that I was really stressed at first having lost Mikko Rantanen, but what he was able to do in the regular season excited me about how he could potentially fit in with the Colorado Avalanche roster. You know, obviously we talked a little bit about playoffs and how they were bleak for him, but at the same time, you know, you need players to show up in the playoffs, period. And Necas didn't do that. And Peterka hasn't had any playoff experience yet. And so putting him on a roster where he could potentially make a lot of noise in the playoffs, it could be really beneficial for the Colorado Avalanche. So I really like this trade rumor, and I think that if somehow, some way, the two front offices end up figuring out some sort of a deal where these two players flip-flop and go to the other team, it could be massive for the depth of the Colorado Avalanche and just the overall strength of this team.